Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox, and we have got some breaking news, and it is very good news, so pay attention. With the Gender Recognition Act going to court next month, they're doing the preliminary hearings now, and this news won't half annoy Nicola Sturgeon, because obviously she put the vote through at Holyrood, and then Section 35 hit from Westminster, and that stopped it becoming law. She went mad about it. She's pushed it up, and she wanted a court case. And like I say, next September or next month in September, that court case is going on. So at the moment, they're doing all the preliminary stuff. Now, one of the complaints was against Alister Jack that he had acted irrationally in ordering the Section 35. Well, Lord Stewart, the Advocate General for Scotland, has not upheld that claim. He said effectively that Alister Jack acted entirely rationally in stopping it. It was a rational act. They needed to prove it wasn't. They failed to meet the level of proof, and so the court case goes ahead perfectly fine. But it's going ahead now with the fact that Alister Jack's decision was entirely rational. This means it becomes almost impossible to overturn the Section 35. So before they even go to court, it looks like they've already lost. We will have a look at it. It is just brilliant news for common sense and for decent people everywhere. And I will ask at this point, if you're not yet subscribed, please do so. Please help spread the good news. Let's spread the truth and get out there and keep this thing going. So, like I say, regular viewers who haven't subscribed, now's an excellent time. And new viewers who are yet to subscribe, please do hit that button now. And we'll go in and have a look at this, because it is absolutely brilliant news on a Friday afternoon, knowing how much Sturgeon is going to hate it. Here goes. So, Alister Jack did not act irrationally in blocking the gender law. The UK government's most senior Scots lawyer has rejected claims that Alister Jack acted irrationally when he blocked Holyrood's Gender Recognition Reform Bill. Now, once the Section 35 was in place, the first thing Nicola Sturgeon did was to say, right, we're taking this to court. Bang. And she did it. She said, we must take this to court. And then about a week later, of course, there was the whole furore over her resigning because of the upcoming police investigation. That's not why she says she resigned, but it's absolutely clear that's exactly why she resigned. And so for her, this was supposed to be her crowning glory, the destruction of women's rights in Scotland. And instead, it was stopped by someone sensible, doing something sensible to protect women in Scotland. It wound her up, and I bet this is going to burn her inside. Anyway, in legal arguments published on Friday afternoon, Lord Stewart, Advocate General for Scotland, said the Scottish Government's attempt to overturn the veto relies upon an incorrect, formalistic and unduly narrow interpretation of the Scotland Act. Basically, he's saying this, that dog don't hunt, to put it that way. Basically, what they're trying to do, the legal framework they're using in order to overturn the Section 35 just doesn't exist. He said that for the Scottish Government to back up their claim, they would need to prove that the Scottish Secretary had acted in a matter which was so outrageous in defiance of logic or of accepted moral standards that no sensible person who had applied his mind to the question to be decided could have arrived at it. Well, the protection of women and the safeguarding of young people who could be forced into gender changing without suitable medical oversight are clearly logical, common sense things to do. And given that, of course, it was a rational act, not an irrational act. And that has basically defeated this claim in court before it even gets there. The bill, passed by MSPs just before Christmas, simplifies the process for obtaining a gender recognition certificate by removing the need for medical diagnosis of gender dysphoria. And the danger there is you can have young people who may have mental conditions, or anxieties or grief, or all sorts, could be on the autism spectrum, anything like that, and they could be pushed into it by these dangerous trans activists who are looking for bodies to use in their weird sort of battle in order to destroy human lives, just to push a political point. And you're removing that safeguarding, and that is wrong, morally, ethically, and it's currently still in law, legally. Anyway, in January, Mr. Jack made an order under Section 35 of the Scotland Act to block the legislation from gaining royal assent. It was the first time the veto has been used. The Act gives the Scottish Secretary the power to block legislation passed by Holyrood from gaining royal assent if he believes it will have a detrimental impact on areas reserved to Westminster, and it most certainly will. You can't be a woman in Scotland and then suddenly cross the border and have to return to being a man again. So what they do is they say, no, you're a man the whole way through. In his statement of reasons, Mr. Jack warned that having self-ID in Scotland, but requiring some form of medical safeguarding in England, Wales or Northern Ireland, would impact the UK-wide Equality Act and create two parallel and very different regimes for issuing and interpreting gender recognition certificates. In April, Humza Yousaf confirmed he would mount a legal challenge. This was during the leadership challenge, during the leadership process. During the SNP leadership contest, he was the only one of the three candidates to commit to fighting the bloc in the courts. Yeah, I mean, Kate Forbes said she definitely wouldn't. Ash Regan was a bit more on the fence, but was coming down to not doing it. So it was only him who seems to want boys to become girls, and let's just abuse young people terribly. He's the only one that's for that. He also warned that if Westminster overreach was allowed to stand, more Holyrood laws could be blocked, undermining devolution itself. If you don't like the rules under which you are a devolved parliament, please stop being a devolved parliament and go back to being ruled directly from Westminster. It's your choice. The challenge is due to be heard at the court session in Edinburgh next month. In their petition for a judicial review, the Scottish Government said their argument for overturning the veto was based on 4 counts. They claimed the Tory minister had made a material error of law, that his concerns about the safeguards in the bill were irrelevant to Section 35 order, and that his reasons were inadequate, which would make the order unlawful. The submission read, having regard to the absence of any supportive evidence produced by the Secretary of State and in the context of research, consultation and comparative information available to and considered by the Scottish Parliament during the bill's passage, the Secretary of State's concerns about the operation of the bill are irrational, and it's just been proved that their case saying that it was irrational has been wiped out, and the most senior man in Scotland in terms of the law, the Advocate General, has said it was rational. End of case. Let's take it to court, just because we want to see them lose. The Scottish Government's lawyers also said Mr. Jack needed to show why he had reasonable grounds to believe the bill would impact on the operation of reserved laws. Well, it's pretty clear. We don't need to even discuss that. It's obvious. In his note, Lord Stewart said the legislation passed by the MSPs would modify laws which should be reserved to Westminster. And that, at the end of the day, is it. In making the order, the Secretary of State did not act irrationally, he said, on the basis of the evidence which was before him or by taking into account any irrelevant considerations. And he also defined the use of Section 5, describing it as part of the devolution framework. He says it forms part of a suite of carefully crafted checks and balances on the devolution of lawmaking power from the UK Parliament to the Scottish Parliament, which includes but goes beyond the question of competency alone. And so basically the Lord Advocate has said, or the Advocate General, has said, on your bike, Humza, you and Sturgeon are fools for trying to bring it in and fools for forcing it down people's throats, and it's not going to stand up in court. So, the best advice there, I think, if you read between the lines, is he is saying abandon the case because it isn't going to fly, which is excellent news. And I'm going to come up. I don't know why, but Sturgeon was absolutely desperate for this bill to go through. She was almost like she wanted to hang herself on it. She wanted this to be her crowning glory, that mentally ill men could suddenly pretend to be women and we all had to agree. And it looks like it's going to be defeated, and that's just excellent. Why did she want this, though? Why did everyone in the SNP think this was so important, so needed for national, for the good of the nation? It is destructive. It destroys women. It destroys women's rights and freedoms and everything that they've worked for years to get, and it denies their very existence. And yet, for Sturgeon, it was the all-consuming policy that she hung everything on. She's a very weird woman. Anyway, at least now we know it's probably not going to go through the court. It's not going to win. We're in the clear, and thankfully, you can still pretend to be a woman, but nobody has to agree with it. You don't have to join in anybody else's lies. Super. And I shall finish there. Thank you very much for watching this video. Thank you very much for liking it, which I'm sure you're about to do now. And of course, definitely for subscribing. And until next time, stay safe, stay well, and keep watching this space, because we're going to follow this all the way through the court anyway. But it looks like the case is already over. Bye.